difficult moment in one of my births, and what got me through was just that realization in that moment that my body was made to do this,
Mm.
and it just shifted depends on how it relaxed.
Yeah. Similarly, I was thinking about a moment of a birth that I was in as a doula, and there was just this really, it was the first birth I was at. It was really special, and I just remember this moment where the woman I was working with, she was a young teenager, who was really, she was afraid of, she was afraid, she was really afraid of her body and of the intensity of the experience. And there was a moment when she really, I think, kind of like, I saw her really drop into the experience in a way. She almost, she connected with herself on a body level, like we were just doing, became aware of what her body was doing, and the whole birth shifted. She, all of a sudden, the baby, as it was coming out, it started kind of making progress almost. It wasn't, not to get too explicit or graphic, but babies, at least in my experience, they can come out and then go in and then come out and then you're in that process for a while. And she was able to really drop into her body and the experience, and all of a sudden it felt like she was working with the contractions in a different kind of way. She almost understood what the contractions were doing inside of her body, and she was able to really be more efficient almost with her time and with her process and her experience. And yeah, I'm just wondering if you all have if you have any stories, from your experience where you felt like that kind of awareness has allowed for a smooth process or a shift, or yeah, just some moments from your experience that you think could maybe illustrate to the group how mindfulness.
Before we answer that, I'm just going back to what Yeshi was saying at the beginning about this culture of control. I think we're taught that if we are able to control things, it will be efficient, we'll be able to get things done. And when you're talking about this shift to a place of surrender and being with what is, and then it's actually through that with allowing what is to just happen that we get to where we want to go with more efficient. It's completely countercultural, and it's one of the premises of mindfulness.
I was just thinking about a particular birth where it was with a woman who was a doctor and very analytical and very much used to controlling her environment. And it was just amazing to watch her labor because she would really get into the flow of it. And then you could almost see her go back into her mind and think about, where am I in this process? Is this happening how it should? And the labor would just totally slow down, almost stop. And then she would kind of find her way back, and it would just be unfolding beautifully. And then the same thing would happen. And it was from, a long time like that, this like push and pull. Finally, nature won. So I think that's, hormones is like such a gift, right?
I'm thinking of a birth where this woman, she was kind of like very, very polite and very, she'd been very well brought up, kind of in an upper class family, and she had a lot of pressures on her to be nice, and to act ladylike, and when she started out her labor like that, just sort of and she, just like not much was happening. She was being very nice. And then at some point, like, she just got up, and every time she had a contraction, she'd just say, "Ah!" And then she'd lie down, and then she'd have another one. She'd get up, she'd say, "Ah!"
Very contained. Sounds like she contained it.
No, she didn't. I'm just containing it for the sake of the JCC's reputation on Walnut Street. She did not contain it. I mean, you could hear it. It was in the hospital. You could hear it, probably.
Okay.
It was on the 3rd floor. You probably hear it on the 4th or the 5th floor. I mean, everywhere. And she just, like,
Great.
was just, like, enjoying herself so much. And, her baby came out pretty soon after that, But it's just, like, for me, it's just so much, like, there's so many shoulds, and women have so many shoulds about how to be and how their birth should be and how they should act, and it just, birth doesn't really lend itself to that. It doesn't really lend itself to, bowing to the shoulds. And so she, at some point, she just, like, let herself notice how she felt and just acted on that, And it was a very mindful birth, and she had no regrets. It was so beautiful afterwards. She was just like, I was so surprised, but she didn't mind, she wasn't, like, taking it back. But she really surprised herself. And, there's a certain thing about a certain quality of mind that goes with mindfulness, which is, beginner's mind. Like, we just don't know, we don't know how we're going to be or how life is going to come at us, and, what Margie was and Sadie was saying, just this kind of curiosity about, what's it all about and how we can be. So that was the birth that came to mind when you asked the question, which we don't really think of as, mindfulness, because we think, it's all about calm. But it was a very mindful thing, because she was connecting with she was actually connecting with her present experience, and just, like, choosing how she wanted, to go with it,
With the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, we asked the rabbis after this 2-year experience, what's different for you in your work and your art? And what came out most strongly was people saying, I'm more authentic, more me, and I'm able to speak the truth more. And so it's this combination of beginner's mind, of not knowing, of being curious about what's actually true, and a very powerful, that allows actually for a very powerful authenticity and knowing of one's inner wisdom, which is necessary as a parent when I personally have encountered, but many parents encounter doctors and teachers and all these people who have very strong and often mutually exclusive opinions about your child and how you should be as a parent. And so that being able to rest on, what do I know? What is actually true for me? Which the story illustrated beautifully, is crucial.
I'm going to pose one more question, and then we'll shift again. And this is something we haven't really touched on yet, but I would be interested to hear everybody's thoughts on this. And that is, a lot of people maybe have come to this circle or are interested in the connection between birth and Jewish experience or Jewish thought. And I'll frame it in another way, which is how can birth and the mindful experience experiential, spiritual experience that it is, and the sacred experience that we're all talking about, how how can my Jewishness play into that, or deepen the experience for me, or create a context for me?
Can I actually repeat the question?
Change the question.
Change the question a little
Sure.
bit, or get that one?
Change the question to what?
Because I think there were a couple of other pieces of mindfulness.
Okay. I'm keeping a little bit of time, and that is the one we only have a small little bit of time left for the panel, and that's just the one area that we haven't covered yet. So, do you want to throw in a few?
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Sure. For the Jewish mystery. So two pieces that came out in our planning that I just wanted to share. One is about non-attachment, which is central to mindfulness as well. This idea that we might want things to be a certain way, but things are as they are. And so personally, I really wanted to have a drug-free birth, and wanted things to go a certain way. But as I was going into it, I was also aware that part of the practice of mindfulness is allowing things to be as they are, so that if I was in the 12% that really needed the C-section, or whatever it was, to surrender to that as well. And I think particularly in Berkeley, we really want a particular kind of birth, and to know that we're going to trust our inner wisdom, and we're going to know everything that we need to know about this contextual context, and that when our inner knowing says, we need an epidural, or we need whatever it is, to not be attached to that idea of this is how I want it to be. And then the other thing is about that sense of the self changing, that we have a sense of this is who I am, and in the process of birth and becoming a parent, a mother. You were saying before, I think, that in coming to Berkeley, that this experience is actually transformative for you, that you were being birthed. And I think that that's actually something that mindfulness can support with, that shift not only in this baby's being birthed, but who I am is actually changing, and actually changes in every moment. Sometimes we're just not aware of it, and will change over and over and over. So those are two things that mindfulness can really support in noticing change. Breath in, breath out. There's actually change that happens in every moment. It can be great training for those big changes. So that was something I just wanted to make sure we got to. And in terms of your question, the Jewish piece, I would say a couple of things. One is there are places in Jewish tradition that really are in line with the tenets of mindfulness, and there's a midrash that came to mind as we were thinking about this, that talks about the angel, his name is Delilah, one of the few angels that might actually be female, and who teaches the baby in utero everything that there is to know in the world. Shines a light from one end of the world to the other, and the baby is completely all-knowing in utero. And when the baby comes out, Lila goes, and that's why you have this indentation right here. He forgets. In another place it says, so in birth, the wisdom is hidden, but in dreams, at night, it's revealed in the language of dreams. So that idea that this baby, not only our bodies, but also this baby has its own wisdom. And our job in parenting is to help reveal that wisdom, to notice what is that baby's wisdom, but in the process of birth, that this baby knows what it's doing. That midrash is a great shame. And the other answer to that for me is that it's a little bit different. Mindfulness, especially coming from the Buddhist tradition, is much more focused on non-duality, on the realm of life, the aspect of our consciousness in which there is no separation between the self and the other. And in birth, we're really aware of that. This being that has been a part of us very, very slowly becomes other. And we're sort of entering that realm of dualism. But theologically, Judaism offers, at least a lot of Jewish theology, is kind of dualistic. And it offers this idea of God in whatever way we imagine that, who's able to support us, to be with us in the way that our parent or a doula or midwife would be someone who's accompanying us, which is a little bit different from the approach of mindfulness, which personally, I feel like that state of consciousness of having someone who's accompanying or being who's accompanying, and it said that the Shekhinah, the indwelling presence of God, is at the foot of the bed of anyone who's ill. Having that presence is tremendously comforting. It's possible to relax into their presence during the birthing process. So those were just a couple of pieces that came to mind in terms of that, the Jewish question. Please have
You want to say something?
No.
Well, yeah, what came to mind is something kind of, yeah, a little bit different. I'm thinking of just the Jewish imperative of tikkun olam, of healing the world, the repair of the world, and just the way that for me as a midwife, my work has been completely connected to social justice, that my midwifery work is inseparable from my work for social justice, and my intention and my dedication to that that all women, that all families should have access to good, safe, culturally respectful care, and so that my being Jewish and my being rooted in that social justice tradition is very much carried over into my midwifery work and the way that I do my work and I do my midwifery work in the world with that consciousness.
Can I share a few ideas about Judaism and birth? So, oh, thanks. I could just turn it. So, I guess I relate to what both of you have said, and on so many more levels also with Judaism and birth. But, for me also, being involved with birth and maternal health is also about social justice, and I look at disparities and all of that. But actually, I'd like to tie together both of your approaches for a second. The idea of duality in Judaism, it happened in the Garden of Eden, in Gan Eden, right? And that's where childbirth became painful because they ate from that tree that made the duality happen. It created the difference between being clothed and being naked, or working and resting, or light and dark. Just the duality started there, and in Judaism, we also believe that it's the women's role to bring back that wholeness and bring back the age of peace. And so, when the way I sort of look at the duality in childbirth is you're a woman in a physical body and you're a vessel for a spirit to enter the world. And so you're actually literally being that bridge, and connecting and creating that oneness. And so in Judaism, we say like women bring the Messiah, like the redemption comes in the merit of women. So really, being in that birth is like, it's like that crystallization. A woman doesn't have to be giving birth to play that part in the world. I mean, obviously, but that's one place where it's very, real. And also I wanted to say that, there's so many stories about childlessness and longing for to have children, and not just in the Torah, but throughout Jewish history, the stories of women. And like the Rosh Hashanah, we say that God remembered Sarah. God remembered it. There's so many stories about that, and also the stories like of Miriam and Moses and Shiphrah and Puah, saving the Jewish people, standing up to the Pharaoh and saying, the Jewish women, they're just so stubborn. They have the babies before we come, and they won't let go of them, and it's like, we are the continuation of that, and bringing our children into this world. And there's just, there's so many ways to be raising our families Jewishly, and there's so many customs embedded in our tradition that are to remind us, every Shabbat when we light Shabbat candles, we are bringing in the Sabbath. It's the microcosm of an inch of peace, and so that's our part. And so I feel like, hopefully there's comfort. If you're having that panic during your birth, and you're probably just in transition, and it's almost over, but that's part of the work, that's the spiritual work as well.
Great, thank you.
So there's a lot of ways to engage in it that way, I would say.
Thank you. And one other piece is that in Judaism, sex and birth and body are all sacred. They're all holy. And so there isn't a sense that, that this world is other, other than as holy as over here. But everything that we do in birth is a sacred act. And you were talking about the partnership between us and God, and we haven't brought in a poem about that maybe we can email out or something. But there's a lot in baby namings and Christmas, but that feeling that we are partners in continuing the creation of the world.
Of the world and the Jewish people, right? And I guess I would also, just to add, benching Gomel after having a baby is like such an awesome ritual, and there is a tradition to do this with a minyan of women. It's like ancient. So I just think it's a really beautiful opportunity right after your birth to just practice your Judaism and have this blessing, and have the blessing reflected back to you. And if you don't know about it, you could find out about it.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. It's really interesting to hear everyone's perspectives on how Judaism plays in, and we all have our own experience of that, and our own experience of spirituality. So it's beautiful to hear from everybody. We as the next part of our group have carved out some time for another chavruta. But we didn't do a first chavruta, but basically a sharing. Margie. Okay. Yeah, sure.
What came up for people, questions, and then we'll end with
So if anyone has any questions, we've left this space for really for you all to be able to ask questions
Or comments.
or comments.
What
Yeah.
came up for you?
I work a lot with very small children and their parents. I'm a speech therapist and I work in a hospital.
Can you speak a little louder?
Oh yes, sorry. I'm a speech therapist in Switzerland and I work a lot with very small children and their parents, with children who don't start to work, to talk, and or stutter, and most of the time they have a problem in their relationship, of course, to the parents. And what when you talk about this, you know, the trust women have in their bodies, and it reminds me of things you say so easily. You can trust in yourself being a mother, or you know, having a close relationship to your child, which is of course not true because it depends a lot on your biography. So what I'm interested in is what your experience are. I mean, I suppose not every woman can trust in her body, and this influences the birth, of course. So, I mean, is it a thing you feel already during the pregnancy, or?
I would say that to have the intention to have the intention to go in to have a mindful birth without preparing for it before, as you were saying before, is a challenge. And that it's work. It's like we're strengthening a muscle, and the part of the work is just becoming more and more aware of the present moment. Part of the work of mindfulness practice, and particularly mindfulness meditation practice, is that we sit there and think on retreat. There may be 100 people in a hall. Everyone looks completely placid, completely calm. The reality is, in each person's mind and heart, there's often so much that's coming up. And it's a very healing practice in that way. You sit there, you watch your breath, and suddenly you think about something from your past, or you feel something, a memory that's held in your body. And you have the opportunity to create some space around that, some awareness of that, so that when you come into an experience like birth, those past experiences have a little bit less of a hold on you, and you're able, as Sisha said before, to make more of a conscious choice, so that the fear from early childhood experiences or the tightness or whatever may be there, and be allowed to be there, but you're also maybe a little bit more able to say, but I choose this. I choose connection over hiding, or fear, or whatever it is. I mean, that has been very true personally in my experience. It's been very true that is an ongoing choice. It's awareness that these fears and everything else is here, and saying, in this moment, I'm choosing to allow that to be there and to connect. And it's a lifelong process.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think it's, well, it's the way you can be with these women question was a bit different. It's like, when do you feel it during birth? That, or this example with the teenage mother was very good for me, because a teenage mother, it's very early to really to give birth, and can you trust that at a certain point she will be able to trust in her body, or are there situations where she can't? I suppose there are many women who really can't.
I mean, I think that there's very little in our culture, in Western culture, that encourages women to trust our bodies. You know, we're not, I mean, 1 out of 3 women has experienced some kind of abuse, some kind of violence, some kind of sexual abuse. And, you know, there's nothing in our culture that in and of itself teaches women how to heal from that, you know. So, there's a lot of fear, you know, women carry a lot of fear, there's not a lot of experience of trust in our bodies. So, you know, what we're saying is that mindfulness can be one way, not the only way, but can be one way where women can heal some of the mistrust of their bodies. I would say most women don't trust their bodies. You know, that's my experience in our culture, because you know, very little has contributed to that. Women are, you know, taught to trust something outside of their bodies, some other, you know, something else, some authority telling them what to do, you know, not necessarily their own wisdom or their own bodies. So I think, you know, I think you're reflecting an experience that I certainly share. And
I really hear what you're saying about, you know, whether or not some women can trust that, because there are so many voices from the past speaking and so many don't. And I think it relates a lot to what Margie was saying earlier about being in the moment and really trusting that what is. When, especially for a younger a person or an older mom who's told, oh, you know, you're a high-risk pregnancy, you know, this can happen and that can happen, and there's a lot of, how can you trust that your body's going to create a whole person? And the same with the very young, or someone who comes from a family where there's been a lot of, you know, things going on. You know, how can you really trust that you're creating this person who's going to be whole and that your body is going to do the right thing? And I think what Margie was saying earlier about also, you know, trusting that your body knows what to do, but also being aware of the moment if you need that epidural, if you need that assistance from the doctor, breathing or whatever. So I think there's a combination in all of us that, you know, of needing to learn to trust ourselves more. And maybe the women you were working with never made those connections or were able to even get to the point of trusting themselves. But all of us also have to trust the people we're with. You know, that's why you create a relationship with a doula or somebody your beloved is in the room with you, your best friend, or whatever it is that creates that trust, to let go and say, okay, I can't do this right now. I'm going to trust you to do what I need. We do that with doctors a lot, but also to trust ourselves as much. Not everyone is, as you say, able to do that. So I hear what you're saying. I just think that it would be nice if we were taught that a little bit more as a culture.
And also part of mindfulness is being what is. So if I'm in a place right now where, you know, I just can't open anymore. I just can't. This is where my heart is. Allowing that to be. And sometimes what happens when we just give ourselves permission to be in that place of fear or that place of being shut down, we really allow that to happen, sometimes it will naturally soften.
totally along the line of, building trust. We do this in our classes. So usually it's pregnant moms that you don't have to be pregnant. So we have moms just put their hands on their bellies and just connect with their babies. And you can do this just for yourself. You can give yourself an oxytocin bath if you need it, anytime. And just send some love down from your heart into your belly. Feel the warmth of that. And if you are pregnant, imagine you have a little porthole or a little window into your belly. And you can see your baby in there. Imagine what your baby's smelling and hearing, the sensations your baby's experiencing. Is it light? Is it dark? Maybe if you don't have a baby in there, just your womb, your inner wisdom. Sensing that, getting in touch with that. That sensation in there. Is it tight or does it feel wants to be rubbed or what's going on in there? And usually we'll have moms say to themselves and to their babies, I love you. I love you, baby. If you don't have a baby in your womb, I love you. I love me.
So holding that image of baby or this precious miraculous body of yours, I invite you to send words of loving kindness to yourself. Here's a love in there to your baby. And going forward, pass them out. So keep that inner sense, but not only words. Ahava, love. Rachamim, compassion. And by the way, the word for womb is rechem. Rachamim is compassion. Chesed, loving kindness. Shalom, peace. Ahava, v'rachamim, chesed, v'shalom. Ahava, v'rachamim, chesed, v'shalom. Ahava, v'rachamim, chesed, v'shalom. So sending yourself kindness, gentleness. Sometimes when we're in pain or in difficult times, this tool of sending ourselves
we all need to have a group hug now? Do we all need to have a group hug?
Thank you. Thank you, Yoshi. Thank you, Margie. Group hugs are welcome. After or now. Thank you to everybody for coming out. This is really special, really special. And we have all of everybody's email addresses, and I will share that with our panelists, and you will also be able to find them individually on their individual websites, and I can share their contact information with you all as well, so you can be in touch for different reasons. And we have let me know how this event was for everybody, because we are always coming up with these, we're always trying to meet the needs of our community members, and share the insights and the experiences of our community members. So let me know how it all was for you. And this event is on video, so we'll talk as a group about, actually, do you all feel comfortable with that video being posted onto the internet? So that video will be available for you to use as a resource if you want to check in again with what was said tonight. And it can also be forwarded to a friend that you think may be interested or maybe need something similar. And stay tuned.
Thank you for putting it together.
Great visionary to bring this all together.
It was an absolute joy and pleasure, and somebody had to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you